I'm Jill Savage, joined as always by editor-in-chief Matthew Peterson.
Is it Monday? Is it Monday? It's Monday.
It absolutely is a Monday. I don't know if our DC politics editor, Chris Bedford, do you have a case of the Mondays? Is this a good Monday? How's it going?
My problem is I have an addiction to Sundays where I like to cook a big Italian meal after Mass and usually have a buddy over, comes over, helps us watch the kids, and we all hang out and martinis and wine. So shake this habit because Mondays come a lot faster after a big Italian meal.
Well, I don't know if he had a big Italian meal or not, but President Trump had a very big weekend with President Putin, and legacy media is calling it useless, disappointing, and a failure. But speaking with Jake Tapper on CNN yesterday, Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff revealed the breakthrough that no one thought possible, Putin agreeing to sweeping new security measures.
We agreed to robust security guarantees that I would describe as game-changing. We didn't think that we were anywhere close to agreeing to Article 5 protection from the United States, in legislative enshrinement within the Russian Federation, not to go after any other territory when the peace deal is codified, legislative enshrinement in the Russian Federation, not to go after any other European countries and violate their sovereignty. So we agreed to, there was plenty more.
All right, Matt, I want to start with you. How big of a deal is this that we're seeing right now? And I mean, we're dropping Article 5 already in their NATO and allies.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. I mean, that was the whole reason for all of this, supposedly, in the beginning. But I just want to point out the look on Jake Tapper's face, because it's just, who the hell do these people think they are? They think they should basically regulate the President of the United States of America. They think that they should be in charge of the foreign policy of the United States of America. No one elected them. And yet they sit here with this look of judgment on their face, like, oh, we have to wring our hands because we're really the ones who should be in charge. We're very worried about the deal that they might strike with Russia. Look, this is a violent conflict that's been dragging on for a long time. Obviously, huge strides were made just meeting in the same place in America, in Alaska, which was appropriate. This is a good thing for the world.
So, Chris, why is it that every time that Donald Trump steps onto the world stage, the media is working overtime to say it's useless, disappointing, and failure, right? Like, we see this every time.
Well, first, I want to address how clear it is that Dr. Peterson came from an academic journal and news breaking background, because we're all sociopaths here. I'm one of the people who definitely thinks we should be in charge. I'm ranting at the dinner table most nights about this or that, and my son actually repeats them at school. So hopefully they're pretty tolerant of that. They can't help it, and they don't know anything. They really don't. I mean, let's not even go back too far in the past about how little so much the DC press actually understands about national security. Is when Trump first came into office and he said NATO members should pay more, that was called undermining NATO security and undermining our alliances. Now, nobody could actually explain how asking NATO members to meet their treaty obligations to strengthen their own national defenses in a way that would actually make them more easy to repel a Russian invasion or any other kind of invasion of countries involved in this treaty would make the alliance weaker. But because so many people in DC don't know so much, but they'll think they do, it's very easy to influence them. The blob would basically fill in their viewpoints. And we know, I mean, we've been talking about it for years now, but especially the last couple of weeks with all the new declassified documents on the CIA, FBI, et cetera, working against President Trump from before he even came into office. The blob was always extremely threatened by President Trump, any kind of a change to the status quo. So they would say things like, it's going to weaken the treaty, or Trump just had a meeting with Putin in Alaska that Zelensky wasn't at, and he didn't solve world peace. I mean, that's kind of a wild take. You saw massive concessions from Putin, not all public, some of them private. You saw Zelensky make concessions later today, not even wearing a suit. Granted, it was such an Eastern European suit. I just wanted to see track stripes up the side. It was kind of amazing. I've seen that also amongst the Irish, my own people. But he made concessions leading up to this about the willingness to actually swap territory. There were concessions from both sides. And you know what's funny? These European leaders who are kind of filling in all the gaps for the press, who really do think that the Russians might, if they don't get completely crushed and Putin's not overthrown, well, one, become democratic because it's more democratic, which is extremely unlikely. The people who will take control are much more likely to be significantly more hardline than Vladimir Putin. But two, that if they were incapable in 2 years of marching to Kiev, that they'll somehow turn around and be capable of marching to Paris. That doesn't compute either, but they don't ask themselves these questions. They don't get challenged on these sorts of subjects. It's very different. I mean, if you're talking to a bunch of people on the center right, including just us three, you're often going to get different takes on foreign policy and what's right, and different facts and things that you didn't know that are going to be inserted into that conversation. You'll be challenged. The same is not true in DC's kind of media and New York's media circles and the blob that they hang out with. People are generally in agreement because they often don't speak about any kind of specifics. They just speak in these broad, sweeping generalizations that make them feel good, but aren't often backed up beyond pretty airy-fairy notions.
Yeah, airy-fairy notions, belied, by the way, by the very serious books you have in the background, Chris. I like this location for you. I can see A New Birth of Freedom by Harry Jaffa in the background and other well-read tomes. I guess, I mean, we should recap a little bit. I mean, you and I were at the White House last time that Zelensky was there, not in the room, but in the building. Had to walk all the way around the damn building with all the fencing. And the excitement was palpable as people watched that unbelievable press conference. Well, Zelensky really stepped in it and did himself and his country a huge disservice. But now we see him coming back, and we do see the European leaders coming back around, and we see Putin coming around, and you sense hopefulness beyond the press that there might actually be a deal here to be made. But what they're trying to do now, right, is the same thing they've been doing for 10 years, same thing we've been talking about. And in the background, the subtext, right, is that Trump was compromised by Russia a long time ago. And it's interesting to bring that up now because it's just the way it falls on deaf ears, the way in which that myth has been finally, I think, shattered in front of the American people and even a lot of people in the middle. Do we have the shot of Swalwell on Trump and Russia? Can we roll that a minute?
If you're a Republican in Congress, you just saw a Kremlin kiss ass in the President of the United States. I don't know if Donald Trump is or is not a Russian asset. I do know that at press conferences like this and like at Helsinki, he certainly acts like one. Putin completely played Trump. This is entirely about Donald Trump refusing to release the Epstein files and in putting forward this scripted counter-programming to that. He made America weaker as perceived by the rest of the world, and he humiliated himself.
I mean, Chris, you look at this guy and his suit as well, talking about being scripted. I mean, what do you think this plays at all now?
I don't know who that plays to, except for the true believers. I actually saw a woman with every single liberal bumper sticker you could think about, including backing all the different prosecutors, half of whom are now under investigation, on the back of her cars. That's the person who Swalwell is speaking to, but I don't think he knows it. I mean, this is, I guess the Democrats were really excited. I get it about the Epstein stuff. A lot of people were very excited about the Epstein stuff, and they had their first PR win that they've had against Trump since the assassination attempt. Essentially, that was largely the only real score that they've gotten that had any small impact in polls. But it's over now. It's been deaded, as the youth are saying. I've heard it's something that's not really going to have an impact, and it just sounds so far out of right field or left field, I guess in this case. It doesn't make any sense. It reminds me of previously in the first term talking to people about domestic policy, this, and Putin would somehow come up all the time, like that was some kind of a genius, brilliant, just penetrating truth to share. By the way, not actually backed by any evidence except for imagined evidence, and not actually backed by the history of American policy in this matter. it doesn't resonate, and I think they're going to have to find a new message that actually works, and they better come up with something fast.
Well, Matt, to your point, where we look at 2016, Donald Trump, they were using Russia to take him down, and it's so just incredible that we have this time right now where we are uncovering all the truths of the Russiagate hoax, and Donald Trump is on the precipice potentially of yet another peace deal. We've gone over all the numerous peace deals that he's had in his presidency, especially in that first term. But when you look at it right now, right, if he is able to start his second term off with a huge win, and oh, by the way, it's right there with Russia, who that's exactly what they used to try to discredit him the first time. Is this why they can't, they're trying to delegitimize this whole thing before it even starts?
Yeah, they're trying. I mean, the whole goal here has always been to say that Trump is not a legitimate president, right? I mean, he doesn't actually win. There's something intrinsically flawed about his relationship with Russia. He's a Russian stooge agent, whatever. All that stuff is now, as Chris said, the only people that plays through the people with the crazy bumper stickers. And so the next step is just for Trump to assume the legitimate throne by garnering wins. And he's already done that in 1,000 different ways. The tariffs worked, everything's fine, the economy's doing well. He's slowly fought for a number of issues that he's mainstreamed that are popular with the American people. Being tough on immigration didn't kill him. And so if you actually get, the president at the height of his powers, keeping peace in the worst conflict that is raging right now in the world, that is something that you just can't, you can't write it off. You can't make it go away. And so, we really are watching the collapse in a way of the Democratic Party in real time. I mean, I hesitate to say that. I hesitate to white pill too much on TV, but this is true. And so he's on the cusp of something very big. And it will be quite amusing to see the reactions. But what this does is it gives him legitimacy by doing rather than talking.
Do you know what one of my favorite dumb takes on this whole matter was the idea that Trump gave Putin a gift by inviting him to speak? It's not like he held a state dinner for him.
Right.
It's not like they lined up a big thing at the White House. It's not like he addressed a joint session of Congress. They met at a freezing cold Air Force base in Alaska under a display of American military might, surrounded by American troops and fencing and security. I would never want to see the president of the United States go to a country that was more powerful than the United States and not always on very good relationship with the United States to be at an Air Force base where he got treated to essentially a military parade in the air. That is not a show of power or legitimization for Putin any more than actually speaking to him. And I assume that some of these geniuses here in DC do want world leaders, especially ones who are involved in wars, to speak, but maybe they don't.
Well, when I look at this, I look at just where we were at this point in time during the Biden presidency. And if you'll remember, I think it was around the month of August that we had the failed Afghan withdrawal. Can you imagine how different this will be for Donald Trump if he goes out there and actually gets a peace deal done and not just, oh, you know what, we're going to leave this country that we've been at war with forever. We're going to leave billions of dollars of equipment behind. This would actually be a victory for humanity, Matt?
Yeah, win for the United States of America. Go figure. A wild time with a president who not only is able to speak, but speaks all the time. Most transparent president in history who's constantly talking to the press, has no problem sitting down and answering questions as opposed to Biden. And you have to start thinking, of course, as well about people already talking about the Nobel Prize and when the way that that's been given out before to Obama for, we're not sure, assuming the office and being named Barack Obama or whatever he got it for. You can see Trump, aggressively trying to be the peace president. And that's a winning notion. And if he actually gets the win here, I mean, this is not done. This is a complicated situation. That is yet another win that will go down in the history books. And you can see that's partly what the consternation is, right? They're going to have to try to taint this deal from the beginning and say it's bad news from the beginning. But the fact of the matter is, I think no one cares about these complaints, and people do want to see peace. And if that's actually done, people will rally to that.